Yeah, Mike, to be honest, like, I hear a lot of these stories and it's only so believable. Like, people say they see it when they're a kid but don't realize what it is until they're an adult. But like for me, I haven't seen it. I haven't heard it. Like, I don't know. I can't subscribe to be like, yeah, it's out there. Especially if I haven't seen anything that's even compelling evidence.
You know, I hear stories all the time of people hearing things when they were younger and then
Yeah.
learning about Bigfoot and then deciding
Yeah.
that's what it was. Right now, I can only take them in and be supportive and try to get what I can out of them. I haven't had an encounter myself.
Right.
So I take these stories for what they are in hopes that maybe if it's out there, then show me.
Yeah.
Show me Bigfoot, show me your evidence.
Yeah.
And let's talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where I'm at with it too. Different people groups settled in different climates, and you get different types of really personalities out of that. You know, like I'm from New England, where people are a little bit more rough around the edges. You're from the Midwest, where there's a bit more of a stigma, where people are just more friendly. So it's
unless we like you to think that.
Yeah, right.
We'll sneak up on you.
But it's just so it's not out of the realm of possibility for that to be the same in the Bigfoot community at all.
Well, I think, you know, I've talked to a lot of people that touch on that very same thing, is like, you know, so if they are, which I believe they're more like us than just animal, are you dealing with different personalities? Are you dealing with parents or parental units that didn't necessarily do a good job raising their young? Did you raise a pissed off juvenile Bigfoot? Is he angry and hates the world? You know,
right?
Do they have mental health issues? Are there things that can affect the behavior because of not having proper medicine? You know, there seem to be a lot of stories where people report these things interacting in a way that is kind of like tree hugging and, you know, the protector of the woods. And, you know, they pop out and you see them and they're like, hey, how's it going? And then they turn around and they just walk off and they're not interested. Then you have other reports where people are being rushed and in acts of intimidation to get them out of the area. Now, is that because they're getting too close to a birthing area? Is there a baby that was just born and they want to make sure that nobody comes around there? Is that, you know, then you have other reports where, you know, there are violent altercations that happen between them. You know, I think if they are a person, like I think they are, a people, you know, I think you're going to run into different personality types.
How did you get involved in Bigfoot? Did it come secondary because you just were out in nature? I mean, how did you get involved in Bigfoot?
I had a science background from the University of Alberta, and I was going to prove ecologically there was no niche for a species like this to survive in. So I had a paper, Hoax, Mistake, and Identity Theory. I was going to show there was no place that a species like that could survive. Didn't even know about the carnivore diet at the time, that human beings can thrive on meat like Sasquatch can. But what happened was, especially working with the native people, realizing these people are elite trackers. They're next level, and they all know Sasquatch is real. And I'm out there, you know, from cement and glass houses my whole life going, well, you guys are crazy. And after they earned my respect and I earned theirs, I started to turn a little bit. And then when I filmed the two videos, I was being guided by video 2 and video 3 shouldn't be my footage. I was the freaking camera guy. They were like, point here, film there. You know, 2 great men took me out in Montana and guided me through that, and we got those incredible pieces of footage. And it wasn't even the footage that convinced me. It was everything else that went on. All the sightings, the sounds I heard, the nighttime things that had happened, that just made me a wholehearted believer. Like it's when the truth kicks your ass and boots you on the ground, you gotta start saying, okay, there's something to this. And so, yeah, I came at it as a skeptic to prove They couldn't exist. And the proof of non-existence was powerful to me. I thought, mate, because it has to go back into native lore. So these native people that make moccasins and beautiful headdresses, of course they could make an incredible Sasquatch outfit. And then think of the value of that. Because you know how they have to fight in war for food and everything? The Spokane Indians would talk about the Sasquatch would come around and they'd smell them, and the Sasquatch would steal all their salmon, and they wouldn't chase them because they were afraid of them. They'd leave big tracks on the ground. Well, just wooden tracks, nice headdresses. You could steal all the food you want, create this mythos, and then, no fighting, no war, and nobody goes into certain territories. Do you know how many places that the natives have they call don't go there? That's where Bigfoot are. And it's all over Canada and the US. Nobody's talking about this. An area called Unishkama Ikpak. What does that mean? It means don't go there in Cree. Why? Because Bigfoot lived there, and you don't go there. So to me, it was this brilliant hoax. It was perpetrated all the way back into the native people. And obviously that is absolute garbage. That was just me being domesticated and a complete twit. And really coming into this, the surest way to keep any human being in perpetual ignorance is making judgment on evidence before you actually look at the evidence. Right. If you go into it going, this is crap, I'm not going to buy this, all you're going to look for, you're going to have blinders on it, all you're going to look for are the holes, as people call it. And there's always going to be holes, there's always going to be things that you can't put your finger on. Like people say, well, you didn't talk about this, you didn't talk about that. Well, you know what? I've spent 2,000 days in the backcountry wilderness. I could write 100 books. Every expedition is like experiences like you can't even imagine. So I can sit here for days telling you about the last expedition, where I can cut to the chase, to the point, even irresponsibly so. What was the backstory on any of those videos? Nobody knows how I got in there, what it took. Nobody knows how many. This is one twit that came forward and said this when I was with my girlfriend, Ashley, and a couple expeditions. He goes, well, Todd's fake because every time he goes out, he films a Bigfoot. I almost fell over. Like, it just, what the hell is he talking about? Like, man, I could literally break it down to, I see a Sasquatch I get around a Sasquatch every 5 days. I see that I'm out. I see a Sasquatch probably every 30 days that I'm out. I film a Sasquatch probably every 300 days I'm out. I'm averaging, and I'm getting really bad right now because I'm not even taking a camera around me. It's really like I've got the footage, guys, and I'm done with.
It also seems like you're at a point where you almost have more so. Obviously, you want to prove its existence, but you also have come to a point where you're almost at a point where you want to have a relationship with.
That is the number one thing.
That's your priority. Your priority isn't film anymore because you have footage.
I have footage. I have DNA. I don't need it anymore. If you want more footage, want more DNA, maybe. If something pops up, like I could, guys, I'm not going backcountry and risking my life the way I used to. What I used to do was so goddamn dangerous. The odds of me dying. So after search and rescue went looking for me and that whole incident transpired, the police sat down with me and said, do you know what the odds of you, 1 in 10 times you go out, you're going to die. Like, you're not going to come back. And how many times have you been out this year? And I go, 16. Yeah. The odds of you being dead are pretty much 100%. You're going to die if you keep doing this. These are the numbers. These are the stats. These are the facts. And now I've spent over 1,000 days in the backcountry wilderness. And I'm going to tell you something that's really next level and probably a little woo. The only reason I'm still here is the Sasquatch take care of me. They watch me. They have my back. They've saved my life. I can show at least 5 times where I was dead. And they saved my life. I should be freaking gone and never found again. But they take care of me. They watch over me. And they're my guardian protectors out there. They really, really like me. And they believe that I'm necessary for this discovery.
What do you say to the people that are telling you that they saw Bigfoot and they know what they saw and it's undeniable?
So that's an interesting question because I find myself a lot during interviews with people that are giving me their eyewitness accounts. I find a lot of inconsistencies and things when I'm told certain accounts, and some things that just don't add up, which some would be like, well, that's why it's Bigfoot. Interestingly enough, the people that I've interviewed that have given me kind of the data that has maybe convinced me a bit more than others are people that have never claimed to see Bigfoot. So I like to interview those people that are researching and not claiming to see. I think everybody wants to kind of have their fame a little bit, that they saw Bigfoot and hope someone runs with a story. And I think a lot of times when people are telling these very elaborate stories about their encounter with Bigfoot, that, things just don't add up. And there are some that I've interviewed that, maybe they're a bit more believable and that I've maybe thought more about than others. But for the most part, I'm more interested in people finding me evidence without claiming to have seen Bigfoot.
I think that's where I'm at. I have not had any experience or an encounter. People ask me that all the time, and sometimes, to be honest with you, I feel like maybe I should have a story for these guys, because that seems to be a thing in the community. But I don't. So I definitely don't have that that perspective going at it.
I'm here with Izzy, and Izzy, you just saw Bigfoot, right?
Yep.
Tell me all about it.
So first of all, we saw his crib.
Okay.
And he had actual hair, and there was a lot of hair in it.
Okay.
There was chunks of hair,
Yep.
and there's also hair on the outside of it. And then we also saw Bigfoot footprints
Wow.
going up into the woods like this,
Big footprints, right?
like this big.
Wow.
And then we also went deeper into the woods, and then we saw this.
That's
We saw
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot in the woods.
That's him.
This
Wow.
is him. And we went to another tent, and he actually likes beef jerky.
Really? He likes beef jerky.
Yes.
That's incredible. Wow.
And he was also howling to his wife, her kids, or his babies.
Okay.
What does he sound like?
He sounds like this.
Do you think Bigfoot has supernatural powers?
No, but I do think he has some powers to call his wife and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And the gold one sounds like.
Okay. You know the first Bigfoot seen was a girl Bigfoot, right?
Oh, we didn't know that.
Her name was Patty.
And his name is Harry.
Harry, yep. Have you ever seen his movie?
Yes.
Harry and the Hendersons?
Yep.
Yep.
And he all goes
So he moved to New Hampshire.
That's why he was here.
That's why he's here.
his footsteps is really quiet.
Yeah. That's true. He's stealthy.
And he's stinky.
He does smell. Some would describe it as a pungent odor. A tremendous pungent odor.
I describe him as a skunk.
Skunk ape? Skunk ape is one of the names for it.
Because he's really disgusting.
Wild skunk apes
Oh,
in
and he-
Florida and
And
Kentucky.
he also stepped on flowers.
Really?
Because he was like, I don't care about flowers.
Wow, that's so rude. That's so rude.
I know it because I actually saw his footprint was twice the size of my foot.
Twice the size of your foot. Wow. That's a big foot.
Yep.
That's why his name is Bigfoot.
Yep, you're right. Anything else?
He's really, 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 really cute.
Bigfoot population. How many Bigfoot do you think there are? Roughly.
It's funny because
Around the world.
back in the day, when people talked about Bigfoot, it was one Bigfoot that was out in the Pacific Northwest, and it was a sole solitary creature. Obviously now it's been more realized that that's not the case. I live in Indiana. I'm right at the state line going into Michigan. When you look at the state of Michigan and you realize how many hundreds of thousands of acres are undeveloped in Michigan and are still just wooded, the idea that 150 to 300 Bigfoot could reside in the state of Michigan, that sounds like a lot, right? Holy shit, we'd be seeing them all over the place, right?
Yeah.
No. If I wanted to go off the grid, if I had the skills to do it, I could walk into the woods of Michigan and nobody would ever see me again. And I could live my life out. Obviously there's some skill to it.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be remarkably easy to stay undetected. So, even though it sounds like a lot, I think that's probably pretty accurate.
In nature, animals, as soon as more kind of more land is developed and things, the population of animals go down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Bigfoot, peak population, say, I asked you what you think it is today. What would you say at the time that cave drawings and depictions of Bigfoot, is it more of a common creature at that point? And are people more kind of, are they more familiar with it? Do more people see it? Is it more out there than it is now? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question. Off the cuff, I think I'd have to say that I think that the population of them was probably similar as it is now. But
we're less distracted.
There was less confusion. There was less. There were less cities. There were less, major metropolitan areas. The Native Americans who seem to have some relationships with these things. Back in those times, there wasn't a whole lot going on. We didn't have vehicles and airplanes and stuff like that.
So you would say similar population to current population, but they had the ability to move more freely and more comfortably around the earth because there wasn't a lot of developed land, cities, right, large communities. That would actually make sense.
There's a guy out your way, actually, in New Jersey, who does some studies, and his research, he seems to think that there, in the state of New Jersey, that there are between 2 and 3 clans that seem to migrate through the state based on seasons and a specific type of berry that is found in abundance in northern New Jersey that has multiple seasons. So he thinks that one clan comes through in the early when the early berries go, and they decimate the area, and then again later on when they rebury again, another clan comes through and then decimates the area. And he seems to think, based on his research, seems to think that they don't necessarily migrate from the Pacific Northwest all the way over to New Jersey. And, certainly the ones that are in Ohio aren't traversing all the way down to Florida. There seems to be some geographic stability to the ones that are in the Pacific Northwest, and the type, for the most part, the ones in Ohio, the Ohio grassman, reports of those seem to be more aggressive. I don't know much about out on the East Coast, but when you get down to Florida and Mississippi and Louisiana, they seem to be a bit more cranky, and they seem to be a bit smaller, and they seem to be a lot thinner haired by reports. So it makes sense. If you're in a hot climate, why would you need so much fur or hair?
Yeah.
Right. So if you're walking around in that kind of humidity and you're in a swamp and you got gators and snakes and everything else to contend with, maybe they're a little more pissed off than the ones out in the Pacific Northwest.
Right.
I mean, it's almost laughable to have a conversation about this and try to read in those things. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it kind of makes sense.
The Sasquatch that I am studying and working with, we have built a relationship with them, a rapport that has them coming around no different than Jane Goodall and Diane Fossey with gorillas and chimpanzees respectively. Those are my mentors. Those are my human teachers, are the best primatologists that have ever lived. Ian Redmond is the man right now, right? He's the one that would be my guy on the ecological survey with Fish and Wildlife. That'd be my dude. That is one tough SOB. He is a beast. But right now he's a little focused on saving the species that are known as mountain gorillas, and he's winning. And I'm really proud of that guy. But it's primatologists like him that are boots on the ground, working just like me. We're not going like finding Bigfoot every week. It's a new area. the primatologists and scientists look at that and go, you're a bunch of douchebags, Cliff Backerman. Like, you're so full of crap, it's sad. I've been in the same research site for 15 years now. And believe me, we're producing results because of that. Primatologists have to do 8 years with gorillas before they get any kind of success, right? 8 years of continuous habituation. That's what I've done, and I'm building myself based on that knowledge and that scientific background with the boots on the ground and the Native Americans and First Nations people and all these wonderful people that I'm dealing with now, Americans all over the United States. There are so many amazing, impressive people that are doing Sasquatch research, human beings of absolute integrity. Like in Nia Bay, the Macaw Native people, they've just embraced me. I'm going to Macaw Native Reserve for the rest of my life. I have elders there that are colleagues of mine. We teach and feed off of each other. Amazing, incredible people. You know, the Stoney Nation's Indian here in Canada, the Nakota Indians, the Blackfoot now. I have incredible relationships with these integral human beings. And this discovery is coming forward like I'm the pebble that's rolling down the hill. And when I hit Joe Rogan, and believe me, it's gonna come. These big podcasters, TikTokers, they're the future. I've been on CNN and BBC already. I was international headlines a long time ago. I just didn't know how. I wasn't in a position like I am now where I'm a full-time researcher and I'm ready to capitalize and build on that as soon as possible. Now it is someone like Joe Rogan, Mr. Beast. I made a mistake dealing with Mr. Beast. I was only going to do 7-day expedition. And when the Mr. Beast people come and call you and they say, we're doing 3 days, they're doing 3 days. You go, no, 5. They go, what? Was that stupid? Bit of a mistake. Because I get Mr. Beast out here and everything changes in a big hurry, right? So I make mistakes, I move on, I grow and I expand, and it'll just build up. It's going to happen.
We'll do Penford Media. We'll do 14 days if it makes you happy, Todd. We'll do 14 days. So I
don't think you realize what you're talking about. We don't shower out there, my friend.
Zach just looked at me like, "What do you mean? What do you mean 14 days?"
I don't. I generally that's getting to be a little overboard, and even it's comfortable. Like we sleep in trailers now. Right. You know, you don't have to worry about a bear jumping on your head like the old days when we were in a tent. I in the old days went out there with a knife, bear spray, because I'm Canadian. We weren't allowed to carry guns, and a sleeping bag. I've had bears attack me at night and stab them, and the fights that I've had. You want to talk about someone who's risked their life? I should have been dead so many times. I've literally laid down to die, like quit and for some reason get back up a time later and make it back. I've suffered. There's a thing called exposure. It's a form of shock that you go through when you're freezing and you haven't slept properly and you haven't eaten properly. Your body goes into exposure. It's a sort of shock. I've been in exposure, like nearly died from exposure 20 times in my life. So go to the hospital. Oh, it's Mr. Standing again. He went on an expedition. He's back and he's suffering from exposure. Put him in a blanket, give him an IV, get some water into him, and let's hope he makes it through again. Like that's my life. Or that was my life. You know, I don't do that stuff now. I'm a dad first before I'm a Sasquatch researcher or anything. I have 2 amazing children. I just love them to death. And when my children come of age, you're not going to remember Todd Standing. My son's going to be a top level football player. My daughter is an icon. She's going to be an elite level soccer player. They're amazing, incredible people because the study of Sasquatch has turned me into like a Tony Robbins of nature. What you're going to learn from me is how to connect to nature, how to spiritually up level, how to start working on your telepathy and reconnect with your wild side. I went to the Insane Clown Posse gathering of the Juggalos. Drunken, drugs. I'm like, what the hell? There's some reason I'm going there. And the reason I went there, I spoke in front of 20,000 Juggalos, and they loved it because I told them, you assholes you think you're free? USA, you people are so goddamn domesticated, it's pathetic. You want to meet somebody free? I show a Sasquatch video. And I explain to them, if you're domesticated, if you're not wild, you're not free. And nobody can argue that fact. A wild thing is free. Are we wild? Nope. Look at you. You're on a table, sitting on a chair, got a microphone in front of you with your nice jacket. Combed your hair, cleaned your glasses, brushed your teeth. While you're doing all this stuff, a Sasquatch rolled his ass out from the tree he slept under. He's looking at you. Where did he go? Naked, with everything he needs right there. Can you imagine how free you would be? Forget taxes. He doesn't have a pair of freaking shoes on, dude. He never stops grounding. And now we know grounding is essential for our equilibrium and our balance. And I'm going to teach you 50 other things that you had no idea about. It's just logical. You breathe in a plant, you're breathing in that carbon. You can see the little particles. They go into your bloodstream, and carbon picks up, it's got that 4 bonding potential, and organic carbon picks up all your little crap in your bloodstream and cleans it out. Plus you're bonding with the plants in a beautiful, soulful, spiritual, connective way. And then you meditate. You get clarity of mind in this beautiful serenity place with these ancient old 350-year-old trees drinking 20,000-year-old structural, perfectly mineralized glacier water that just came right off the ice. Like, I'll go on all day about what I'm truly passionate about, and that's nature and connecting to your real soulful, purposeful self that we've been long taken away from.
Back in 2009, I was heading home from work, was pulling off to the opposite side of the road to look at a couple of cars that were for sale. And as I was doing it, I see some movement up ahead. I looked up, looked at the vehicles, and I looked again, and it was going into the woods. Well, this thing was quite huge. Black, hairy is what I saw. I drove to where it went into the woods. Well, when it went into the woods, it took its hand and just moved some of the branches away. Those branches were 7 feet up in the air. I got out of the car to look, and I can see it going through the woods, just trudging through. It wanted to get away from me. Didn't want any part of it. It was on a mission. I didn't tell anybody, not even my wife, for quite a few days, just trying to process it myself. But in the process of trying to figure out what I saw, I did find out that there was a person that lived nearby that had the same type of sighting a few years prior in the same area, not the same spot, but the same area. And they found some footprints that went well a mile into the woods until they lost it. I've always had an interest in movie monsters specifically, but Bigfoot was a big thing growing up. Watching some of the movies as we went along. But when I found out that Michael went to school with me, we were about a year apart. He's a year older than I am. We reconnected and started exchanging our story, and that's when we got involved together and started doing the investigations. Keeping an open mind. Not everything can be Bigfoot. It could be other things, but that's what we're here to do, is to try to figure out what's going on and what the truth is.
So let me ask you guys both this. There is some debate in what Bigfoot is, right? Some people fall in a camp. They say Bigfoot is paranormal. It has paranormal, tendencies. It does things that we just can't explain. Some would fall in the camp. It is closer to like an ape. What do you guys? Where does your belief start? We'll start with you.
Okay. Well, if you go back in the Native American history, they always talked about an ancient race of giant Indians that were around. Here in Maine, they had them, in the Katahdin area. They would come down, and there was some that were cannibalistic. There were some that actually taught some of the Indians things. And there's been stories of people calling them hairy Indians. I believe they are some type of an offshoot of us, a forgotten race. I think they might look ape-like. I think they're more human than ape. I think they're just, that ape description is what they're using it as for, as a description. The one I had seen, like I said, black hair, it had a face of a man, a very large man. And I think it's just something that's been long forgotten and hopefully just not completely gone. Yeah.
What about you? Where do you fall on that kind of debate of, is it paranormal? Is Bigfoot more ape or human-like? Where does your belief lie?
My belief lies that it's something that we haven't identified yet. You can't rule out paranormal. You can't rule out natural. It has to be on both sides until somebody can actually physically sit down, watch a family group of these things, learn everything about it. We're not going to know what it is. And that's where we come in. We're trying to find some kind of evidence that we can give to science that, will help us determine what it is. To me, I've been up close and personal with it. It looks like an ape, but it looks like a human. Can it disappear? Absolutely. Is there explanations in the natural world for that? Absolutely. Does it have to be paranormal? Doesn't really have to be. Have people said UFOs are taking them away? Yep, I've heard a lot of people say that.
Well, a lot of people line up the times of UFO sightings with Bigfoot sightings, and then they line up the timelines, and often they are intertwined.
Well, they are, but they aren't.
Yeah.
It's one of those things.
It's kind of one of those things where if you look for it, you'll find it. Like if you're really looking for something to connect, you can find it.
Exactly. There's a lot of explanations for all of that.
So I actually want to touch on that in the topic of Bigfoot, right? Because I think there are some people out there that maybe are hoaxing themselves in a sense where they're looking for something or trying to force something to look. What would you say? So as someone that is an eyewitness, I mean, were you necessarily looking for Bigfoot when you saw it? Were you trying to find Bigfoot? What was the kind of scenario like? Was it even on your mind at the time?
For me, no, it wasn't on my mind. It's just something that happened. And somebody that comes in and says they absolutely had this encounter and this is what they saw. And my first words are, tell me your stories, tell me what happened. Because when somebody tells you something, you can see it in their face. You can see it in their bodily expressions. Read their expressions, read their face, read what they're saying, listen to them. And, if you see this giant stress level when they're first talking to you, and as they're talking to you and telling you the story, it slowly goes away, and they have all the right movements of their body, their facial expressions. If everything matches, then you say, hey, can you take me to where it happened and, kind of run through it with me so I can see the environment around it. And I go from there. I mean, it's not rocket science. You just have to basically be a person that's going to listen.
And a healthy bit of skepticism is good in those situations too, I would say, when you're dealing with someone else telling you their encounter.
Exactly. And that's why you, instead of asking them a whole bunch of questions, you ask them, hey, tell me your story. Let them talk. Let them talk. And I interject little things that, I know that would be Bigfoot related. I'll interject these things into the conversation. Did you hear this as well? Did you smell this? Whatever it might be. And, they start to remember little things that didn't click in their mind when they were telling the story before, but all of a sudden, hey, yeah, that did happen. So, the more you get them to do that, if they're recognizing these things and you're seeing that fear of talking to somebody about it disappearing and they're starting to relax, you're probably looking at a real legitimate encounter. I mean, it's not an absolute thing, but that's where you're going to step forward and you're going to go out into that area where they had the encounter. You're going to go investigate. You're going to find the stuff that they are telling you that happened. You're going to find other information, DNA, scat, anything that could help identify it.
And then, how about you, when you're dealing with someone else bringing a story or a eyewitness account to you? How do you deal with someone kind of telling you what they saw and you kind of debating between yourself kind of the legitimacy of it?
Yeah, I don't feed them any information that I might know. I try to get everything that they've seen. They're the ones that have seen it, the only ones that have seen this thing. I want them to come up with a full description. I don't want them asking me questions about it. I want to hear the full truth. Once everything is out, then I start talking about the stories that we've had. But it's a matter of getting information from people. People are just too afraid to give us information. We try to keep privacy, and I won't force somebody to tell me. I tell them, when you're ready, you know where I am. But yeah, the stigma of being ridiculed, I'm too old for that now. I don't care about that.
They are telepathic, 100%. I've substantiated that truth dozens of times now. I've literally been on I'm even going to name names. I've been on an expedition with Kyle, as an example. And Kyle has an older sister. I don't know anything about that. Kyle's my friend. He's a colleague of mine. I had no idea he had an older sister, just as an example. And suddenly I'm saying, there's older sister, this thing's going on with her. And he's going, how did you know that? Well, I didn't know that. They know that. They're literally such powerful telepaths. They're able to read somebody that I can't read, and then take that knowledge and push it back to me. Like, I have had guys, even last year, one of my most powerful telepathic experiences was this amazing woman that came out with her group, and she had a funny hat on, and the Sasquatch thought the hat was funny. Like, it looked really funny to them. So I learned two things from this. Their humor, like, it literally almost knocked me out. I went, ah! Like, my head was hurting because I felt funny, and then I thought, God damn, this hurts. Oh, you guys they see funny in a very powerful way. So he turned the volume down on that, like, because when he got overly excited, he thought it was so funny, right? But so I got that, and I also learned from my teacher, stop resisting. Like, if I would just, the only way that hurts is I'm a resistor. If I let it flow, there's no pain. So I've learned to create flow, if that makes sense. But the other thing that I learned that was so important is he's the only Sasquatch that saw that. And the other two Sasquatch that were a ways off, when one Sasquatch sees it, they all see it. Does that make sense? They all know that there's truth between them. One thing that they had confusion with me in the beginning, they communicated this to me very clearly, is they go say, you're an honest man. I go, yeah. And they go, we know you're telling the truth and you know we're real. What we don't understand is you go back to your people and then you tell them we're real. And how come they don't know? Because all the Sasquatch see something and they all know it's real because they can't lie, because they're totally telepathic. They don't have the ability to be deceptive. Do you understand that? I mean, it's hard for us to really comprehend that. But that's what true telepathy is. You can't hide anything. If you've committed a crime, we're going to know because we can read your thoughts. So they go to me again. So why doesn't everybody know it if you're telling them that? And then I have to communicate back to them, because we're deceptive. We lie. People think I'm lying. And then they go, so you people lie. I go, a lot, like so much that a lot of people will go tell the truth and other people won't believe them. And then they go, and that's why we're afraid of you. That's why we don't trust you, because you are so deceptive and dishonest, and we can see it in your nature. And that was probably 9 years ago. And I spent the last 9 years convincing them that this is the right thing to do, that humanity is worth working for, and we are a beautiful species, and we can learn and ascend. And that's the most exciting thing about this discovery, is we will, as human beings, when we become telepathic, and it's coming, you better be on board. You should be studying it, get a guru, because you can meditate and you can use that pineal gland and become telepathic. What's going to happen is, and you must understand this, everybody who becomes telepathic ascends to another level and will run things. Telepaths can precognition things. They can telekinesis, and the advantages in life, they'll have the ability to be so authentic and so on board, and no one will be able to cheat them and steal them and lie. They will ascend to the next level. If we lived in a world like that, we could literally just go, oh, he's the president. And one man could stand in front of us and just go, and we would go, yeah, you're the president. We see you. We love you. You're amazing. You have a good heart. Go do it. There's no more police. There's no more judges. There's no more goddamn blood-sucking lawyers. We live in a society where narcissists and deceitful, dishonest people are buried. You can't hide. You assimilate up, or we're never going to let you out. You know what I mean? Oh, you want to hurt somebody? Well, we see that. Go away. Arrest him. Throw him in prison. He's going to hurt somebody. Tom Cruise made a movie like that, Minority Report. A person would perceive a crime precognition before it actually happened. But it doesn't even have to be precognition. It can be, we could see it in a human being walking around the neighborhood. You want to steal something. We'll all know it. Can you imagine living in a world of integrity and honesty like that? I can. And that's the number one reason I do Sasquatch research, is because the Sasquatch are like that. They're our closest living relatives, and that's what they're teaching me. That's what I'm a student of, and that's what everybody that comes out wants to spiritually up level to that height of being. And we as human beings one day will go, remember when we didn't have it, and then we rose up and the world just became a brighter, more beautiful, integral place. Like we flourished in abundance and cooperation and beauty when we couldn't lie to one another anymore, where everything was open season on truth and integrity, love and positivity. And that's truly what this discovery is about at the end of the day, 100%. The year that they had such a good success with Survivor Man, this was the first year. So they came around for Survivor Man. The episode's incredible. They took apples, left tracks, interacted with them. It was amazing. You know, when I left, when I was driving away, I got so teary-eyed. I heard them give me a whoop, and I was like, man, you guys didn't have to do that. Like, you came around for swear word Survivor Man. Like, you guys made me look like a champ. And they did, right? The stuff that was going on. You think Todd Standing, some amazing guy, but it was a Sasquatch. They get all the credit. They're the ones, right? And I left there and I was just so teary-eyed. I was like, man, I worked so hard to get here, and you guys just showed up. I feel teary-eyed right now talking about it. They're amazing.
Wow, that's awesome.